I just got a text from you yesterday. Friday or something.
Okay. We're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, I wish to state that on September 9th, 2016, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up until the closed session portion of this meeting and will be available on UTTV Channel 97 and on the Township website. I hereby direct that this announcement be made a part of the minutes of this meeting. I would ask all to rise for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Coggins?
Here.
Mr. Pearson?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mayor Colombo?
Here.
All members are present.
And would someone like to approve the minutes from August the 29th, both regular and closed session A and B minutes?
So moved. Second.
Is there any corrections, deletions, omissions that anyone's aware of? Hearing none. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Barbara, do you have anything for us this evening?
Nothing to report this evening, sir. Thank you.
Daniel?
Nothing at this time, but we do have two contract negotiation matters, a litigation matter, and personnel matters closed.
Okay. Paul?
Thank you. I just wanted to let the committee know that work has resumed over in Strathmere on Commonwealth Avenue now that the Labor Day holidays are up. They are putting in some new drainage that will be having some, closures during the week, but then, until for the rest of at least September and into October, they'll have the roads back open up on the weekends. I did meet with them, and I'll have a little more discussion on it later in the evening, but they are going to start the resurfacing. New Jersey American is water for the resurfacing of their portions of the mains that they had worked on in the spring also.
Paul, for the record, we just discussed your findings with George Harms Construction. Could you read that into the minutes, please?
I did speak with George Harms. They had done some work actually over the 2 weeks prior to the last meeting, securing, especially up along the main front entrance area, and they did do some patrols of areas that the motorcycles and ATVs could access their site, and we're trying to secure them. They do have security guard that does stop out at the site on the weekend, and what they're going to try to do is, if the kids have kind of gotten used to a schedule that the person always comes out at the same time, he's going to switch up their schedules a little bit to make them a little more randomized, to try to get out there at different times to try to patrol the area.
Okay. If you do have additional contact, we have had some additional complaints as recent as Labor Day weekend. So just for the record.
I'll pass that along to them again.
Thank you.
You will.
Anything else?
And that's all I had this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Barbara?
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
We are moving right along. Mr. Coggins?
We have completed the reviews of the fire companies in the township. The last one was this evening. Everything went quite well. The only recommendations that we did come up with is that there are 2 fire companies who are currently not using an independent accountant for their everyday bookkeeping, and suggestion was made that they go to an accounting firm for that. But there was nothing irregular. The audits were all clean. No audit points or finding by the independent auditors. So financially they're looking very well.
Great.
And there will be, I'm sorry if I could just interject, there will be a report coming to the Township Committee for discussion at a later meeting.
Okay. Mr. Young?
First thing, Barb, the men's flag football at the middle school.
Okay.
What's the situation with that?
What do you mean?
Well, the guys were asking me if they're supposed to line it every week, because that's how what the
I
deal was?
don't even have a request that I'm aware of for that. I have to look into.
Oh, I was told
And-
that the
and
school,
I don't have that information.
I was told that the school approved it.
Is this the matter?
I would have to look into it. I
All
don't
right.
have,
I was just wondering if you knew.
I don't have that information
Okay.
in
Is
front
this
of
the
me.
matter we discussed earlier today?
Yeah.
It's the same one that you may have a conflict, you may need to, if you're getting information from Southside, you may need to refer it to it.
If you want to call me
Everything's over
tomorrow or
with.
have someone call me, I can look into it then.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I was just told that they got a call about line in the fields and,
Have someone, whoever's going to handle that, give me a call at the office.
yeah, now do I still have a
Look
conflict?
into
The
it.
lawsuit's over with that and everything? I mean, or do I have to go the rest of my life and not have to be able to speak
I don't know for the
online?
rest of your life, but it's in proximity.
I'll just find
So
it
I
out.
think just to be safe, it may be if there's a concern.
Because of the parties
from both
involved,
parties,
it's
it
probably
goes
best
through
for me to handle.
All right, Ed, it's in your lap.
I'll take care of it.
All right,
Give me a call tomorrow, Ed.
Okay.
all right. I know we discussed what we're going to do with outside organizations before, but it didn't seem like the protocol was followed that we set. Okay.
Give me a call in the morning. Discuss it.
Amanda's memorial, Garrett really finished that up. Looks phenomenal. The benches are in, so the next thing is I have to get Mike down to fasten them into the pavers. And then we would like to set a date for rededicating the memorial. I'd like to throw out October 1st, if everybody can make it. We have our Fall Fest at 11 o'clock that morning. Or,
If you make it later in the day, I'm good. I have a wedding in Central, at Friday night, September 30th. So I'll be coming back from Lancaster. It's an Upper Township individual that I'll be attending the thing, but, I mean, it's up to you. I just, there's no way I'll be back by
we're open any
11.
weekend.
But, I mean, I certainly had planned to go to the Harvest Fest, so, you know, if it's later in the day, it'd probably be easier for me to make
Okay,
it.
let me see what we can do on that, all right? And again, the Harbor Fest, that is October the 1st, and it will be from 11 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And there are flyers with the information on it. Baseball fields at Amanda's, all the lights, Deborah Electric came in and finished hooking up all the lights. It was quite an undertaking with the amount of panels and everything else. Then we have to do out there now on the lights is to put outside lock boxes for turning the fields on. And Wednesday night, I believe, Paul, at 8:30,
No,
we're meeting
we're
with
doing
Quality Light,
testing.
and we have our high reach coming, so we can get up there and they'll come in and adjust all the buckets to make sure that they're where we want them to be. So we're almost wrapped up with the lights. It's a good thing. As far as the fields out there, we had the Little League field almost ready to play on, and I had a coach ask me what the length was that we set up with that, and originally it was set up for Cal Ripken at a 50-70, and then they changed back to Little League, and when the sod went in, they didn't change it, and they set it up at a 50-70. So we had to cut part of the sod out to make it a 40-60, so it's a legal Little League field. So we're in the process of doing that right now. The sod's out. John's getting ready to put gravel mix back in for the infields, and that'll be taken care of. We used the sod that we took up to fix some of the bad sod from where it rotted and root rot. So we didn't lose anything out of it. We just had to redo the field. But other than that, the dugouts are in. The Babe Ruth field, I would think, was maybe a week away, because that's real close. Once we get the Little League done, I'd say within a week to 2 weeks, the Babe Ruth field will be up and playable. And then we'll start moving on to the other Little League fields after that. But we will have 2 fields ready to play on within a week to 2 weeks. And our fall teams will be playing there. And the only other thing I have, Paul, we did, about 2 months ago, we met with recreation as individuals, and we talked about having supervisors meetings as individuals, like once a month, but we haven't done anything at all with it. So can we work on getting those set back up again, or?
Just let me know what day you want to have it.
Wednesdays are good for me. I mean, I would like to meet with recreation one Wednesday and then Mike the following Wednesday instead of doing these together. And Ed, you said you were fine with that.
Yes.
And then he would meet with Tommy and, you know, on his own after that. But instead, I think it'll be a lot more productive.
Just let me know what days.
I'd say Wednesday and late in the afternoon is better for me instead of the mornings. All right? And the only other thing that I want to do, and I just want to make people aware of it, is I have asked John Adams and Dwayne to meet with me probably once a week preferably again Wednesdays, to go over the scope of work that we're trying to get done, the schedules, and to try to get things a little bit better as far as communications, and to eliminate some of the mistakes we've been making in field prep and those types of things. So as long as the committee's fine with that, I'm just trying to change a little bit of the culture that's been going on, and the only way I can do that is to start having weekly meetings with them and show them what I think should be done and how it should be organized. And Roy or Chris will also be in that meeting with us. So as long as the committee's fine with that, I just want to bring it to your attention and see if it works.
Sure department.
Well, I appreciate that. We've had some issues this week with fields not being up and ready. Football field was not ready Friday, and I got a phone call that there was many items that weren't done. We made a mad scramble on Saturday morning and had guys come in and got that done. There was also, for whatever reason, Mike said he wasn't notified about the bingo for that night.
He was.
Well, and I'm saying, I don't know what reason, but it doesn't matter.
That was a whole discussion
You know,
today
but
between
there's something,
Dietrich and myself.
whatever, we got to take a hard look at things here. So we had to bring another guy in to set up the bingo hall. And then we had an issue with the Challenger Sports soccer fields also. So it was kind of a rough week this week. My phone rang from Friday night until Sunday morning. And the only way I can see to get a grip on this at this point is for me to start meeting with them every week, which I'm willing to do, until we see if we can straighten this up a little bit. I'm not blaming anybody, I just think it's, whatever's happening seems to be happening more and more, and it's not your fault, Karen's fault, I don't know.
We can discuss.
We're gonna get to the bottom, of it, let's put it that way, all right? But again, I just want everybody to be aware of that. I know Paul got the call from me Friday night, and we made a mad scramble, and if we're short on manpower, which sometimes we are, especially due to weather, and if we get 2 or 3 days worth of rain and we have things that have to get done by Friday, then it becomes an issue with maybe some overtime, which would still be cheaper than hiring another employee. So I told them they ought to call us from now on if they're short on hours to get something accomplished so we can look at it and to move forward with it. So something has to be done, so. All right, that's it.
Okay. Mr. Barr.
I have nothing to report, sir.
Mr. Pearson.
Just two quick things. We've got the free rabies clinic coming up again, Saturday, September 24th at the Shore Veterinary Animal Hospital on 73 Hope Corson Road in Seaville. And again, dog license will also be available for purchasing at that time. And it's 1 to 3 o'clock, rain or shine, and we hope that people show up. Also, I know we had our Township Patriot Day ceremony, and I'm sure that went well, and I participated in a couple myself, as well as Hobie, went with me on Friday to the middle school, and I thought the kids did a bang-up job at that.
Yeah, until they set their balloons off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice program.
But the whole program was pretty nice. It was well done. The kids participated, and I was really proud to see them. And the unique thing is, like I said to them, you know, we're here on behalf of the mayor, and we're glad to be there. And none of you children were alive when 9/11 happened. Mm-hmm. So it was like a history lesson for them that day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's all I have.
Well, just to follow up on that a little bit, Deputy Mayor Barr and Committeeman Coggins and myself went to the ceremony at Osprey Point. It was a very good turnout. I want to again thank the volunteer fire company and the rescue squad for being there and supplying personnel and people there to support it. There were a number of other organizations there, Boy Scouts, our 3 legislators, state legislators were there. So it was a pretty good turnout, and it was a good presentation. And I think everybody that was there came away with the remembrance of 9/11 and also with the idea that we shouldn't forget that and to, you know, kind of step up our patriotism a little bit compared to what it was on 9/11, because right after that it was very heightened and went on for about a year, and it, you know, as anything else, it kind of normally happens. It calmed down, and we're kind of missing that right now, so we need some more of that.
We tend to forget.
Yep. So that was good. I also want to thank everybody that was the OEM department, and again, fire and rescue. They stayed on top of the storm that was not the storm that wasn't, I guess. You know, we had a lot of things in place in preparation for if the storm did materialize as they were talking about. I mean, at one point it looked like we were going to get massive beach erosion and flooding and rains, and you would have thought we were having the worst storm event since Sandy, but obviously nothing really happened, and in fact I think we fared very well. The tides were up a little bit, but the beaches, I was there last weekend and they look great. Actually I was there Saturday and they look great. So I think we fared very well with that. I did get a lesson in driving the Hummer, but so that's about all that really materialized out of it in the event that we had some flooding at some of our coastal areas. So that's that. And then the only other thing I want to, but let's just say that in the event that storms should happen, we still need to be cognizant of it, because I'm a little worried now that as this one materializes into nothing, that people will just ignore. If another nor'easter or some sort of storm were to hit us. So it didn't work out this time, but it did work out with Sandy. So, let's just still be aware that those things could happen. And I just want to remind everybody that, again, we're having a health fair on October 26th at the Upper Township Community Center. There'll be free flu shots there. There'll be health screenings, some bone density screenings, those kind of things. I believe cholesterol as well. And there's also going to be a drawing for a bicycle helmet. So that's from 4 to 6. A bicycle and a helmet. And that's October 26th, 4 to 6 p.m. So please mark that down. That's all I have. So let's move on to the resolutions.
Okay. Item number 1, supporting the selection of Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst as the main operating base for the KC-46A.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 2, recognizing Wanda Adamson for her volunteer efforts as a member of the Upper Township Green Team Advisory Committee.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 3, recognizing Rebecca Holden for her volunteer efforts as a member of the Upper Township Green Team Advisory Committee.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 4, honoring William Joseph Mack III on attaining the designation of Eagle Scout.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 5, honoring ShopRite Partners in Caring and the Marmora ShopRite Associates for their fight against hunger.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 6, appointing an official to bid at the tax sale scheduled for October 4th, 2016.
Motion to appoint.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 7, authorizing a U.S. Lacrosse Incorporated Corrigan Sports Enterprises Lacrosse Tournament to be held at Amanda's Field on July 14th, 15th, and 16th of 2017.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 8, authorizing the mayor and township clerk to sign a contract with Shore Veterinarian Animal Control Services for an animal control services in Upper Township.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
One question on it.
Go ahead.
This year, I was told that they were down on the beach writing tickets. Is that part of their duty? Somebody asked me that. They're animal control. Are they authorized to be patrolling our beach?
Yes.
Dogs are
They
not
are.
permitted.
They're not
Dogs
supposed to be there.
permitted on the beach.
I mean, I didn't know if they were the enforcing
Yes.
agent or not.
Yes, they
Yes,
are.
yes, they are.
They
I just
are,
wanted to
they
make sure that
have,
they were, you know.
Yes.
yes, they
They
have
are, and
certified
they're supposed to be
officers
there.
that do that.
Yeah.
Answer my question, thank you.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 9, authorizing a contract with Atlantic Investigations for an alcohol-controlled substances training and testing program and safety consultant services.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 10, renewing the contract with Triad Advisory Services for administrative consultant services for the township's COA Market to Affordable program.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 11, authorizing the chief financial officer to sign a renewal agreement with Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey for medical and prescription insurance.
Motion to authorize.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 12, adopting revisions to the Upper Township Supervisors Personnel Policies and Procedures Manual and Employee Handbook.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
And everyone, I'm sure, reviewed it, and there's no changes or suggestions, or have you received any?
I have not.
But we had some minor modifications of language, really just clarifications, nothing substantive, between Barbara and myself. You have the list of changes. There are some other changes that may happen throughout the year, but this is primarily the changes we identified last year and the changes recommended by the Joint Insurance Fund.
Okay. Call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 13 under discussion is the 2016 street paving project.
Paul?
Thank you. When we put together the list of streets for the paving project, from a budgetary standpoint, I kind of used the standardized pricing over several of our last projects that we had done. And most of those projects were straight resurfacing projects. When I got out and actually was doing the field measuring of the various streets and roads, there were several roads, and a couple of them were quite long. Stagecoach Road from Hope Corson Road that goes up to Route 9 heading south, Old Tuckahoe Road, and Crook Terrace, to name just a few of them, were in a deteriorated state of condition where I needed to do some reconstruction work as opposed to just a straight resurfacing. So the costs obviously increased. Also, I spoke earlier that New Jersey American was going to come back in and resurface and reconstruct some of the streets that they were, had trenched up to put new mains in. And when we walked, there's about 14 streets or 15 streets that they were going to do. All but 3 of them were in fairly good condition, but for the trench that they had just did. And what they're going to do is they're going to go in and mill 2 inches off and then put 2 inches of asphalt and then curb to curb. And so all the streets on the easterly side of Commonwealth Avenue, from Willard Avenue to the south, are all going to have new resurfacing. There were the 3 streets. I mean, one of the street was only 88 feet long, so kind of, it's a short street, but a street nonetheless. So I'll call it 2.5 streets over there. The base underneath of it was in a similar condition to some of the roads I was talking about. It's a really sandy sub-base. Obviously, being over Strathmere, it never really got a good road base built underneath of it. So if they were to go in there and just pave mill 2 inches out and try to pave over top of it, in a short order, it's gonna start breaking up. I mean, it might not be for another 5 or 8 years, but instead of just putting, good money after bad, my recommendation was, the committee was, since they had paved additional areas on the other 12 streets to go curb to curb, instead of just paving like a half of the width of the street where the trenches were, that they did commit to go full width paving on all those streets, that we could, and I had to come, that's why I'm coming back here to, modify the paving project, would be to come in and, to take those 2.5 streets, we'll go in and reconstruct them so that we can get some good road base under it, and then have a nice road for, 20 years into the future, and then, good economical use of our money, and then that way, all the streets on the easterly side of Commonwealth Avenue will be newly resurfaced. So that would be my recommendation. I included on your drive for information.
So they're willing to do curb to curb on the other 3 streets, and that'll last at least 5 to 8 years.
They're going to do 12.
12 streets.
They're going to do 12 streets
12
curb to
streets
curb.
are done.
We're going to do 2.5 streets.
Well, we haven't committed to anything yet,
Right,
so
that-
I'm
that's my
asking
re-
the question,
Yes.
okay? If we didn't commit to that, they'd still have to do it.
They may not have committed to do full width on some of it. I think we could have gotten them on most of those streets.
The streets are horrendous over there right now, from the water company.
It's because of the trench that's in there. But if they just put 2 inches over top of it, it's not gonna last.
You're
Well,
talking 2 inches over the trench.
So, the way to look at it is that we're going to be getting curb to curb, 12 streets done curb to curb, as opposed to just being done over the trench. However, all they would be obligated to do on the other 2.5 streets is just pave over it and not worry about the base. So then it's defeating the purpose, because if you have a bad base,
Yeah.
the street's not gonna last long.
We're just gonna do the removal on the base, or are they gonna pave it? On those 2.5?
On those 2.5 streets, we would do the streets as part of our paving project.
No, I mean, what he's asking for is to take away some of the other projects. And quite frankly, all I heard this whole, since January, is that Mosquito Landing Road's atrocious.
So
And
that's
That's still in there.
there.
That's
We
still in
we
there.
have that
I
project.
mean, if you look at the list of streets, that mosquito landing is.
So why does this thing say that several of the off-streets will be taken off?
Which ones did you take off?
I had to take off, adjacent to Elmwood Avenue, there's a Monmouth, Bergen, and Essex. Up in Beasley's Point, I had to take off North Drive, Steel, and East. That would, the last paving project we had done, I'm sorry, no, they're on it, they're still on it. It was, 2 streets in Petersburg, the north Sunset and west or east Sunrise, and I believe one other street that's not on my list, but most of them were off of the side streets off of Elmwood Avenue. That's where most of the streets, in the 2 streets in Petersburg.
Do we think the ones you take off this year could be added in future years?
Oh yeah, they'd be the first ones to be put on
For the next
phase. For the
Okay.
next round.
So
Well, let's maybe look at this one other way. If we were to go in to the streets in Strathmere and put down the road base, could we still get the water company to come in and pay?
good idea.
You can go back to them and ask them.
Have they been
I mean, they
trenched?
may-
They've been-
Have they been trenched by the water company?
Yes.
So if we went in there with our own crews, hypothetically, and put down some road base,
So we couldn't do it with our own crews. We don't have the,
you don't have a roller, I guess.
well, and we don't have the roads are much longer, and we would not be able to do them in a efficient, time-effective manner.
Okay.
So you're asking them if we can get water companies paving on those 2.
Exactly. They can do the paving.
Let them absorb the cost and we'll do the prep.
Well, but that's what I'm thinking, they would have to do the 3 anyway, and if they're good for 5 to 8 years, even 5 years, that gives us time to continue to do every other project that we have in place, and it's something that can be planned for in the future.
But we still had to remove some streets. Even if I take out the Strathmere streets, we were still gonna have to lose some streets in the project because of these other streets needing the extensive restoration. We were
Which
still
are on
gonna
the
lose some
main lane?
streets.
Which are streets on the main lane?
Excuse me?
Which are streets that are on the main lane?
Yes, yes. Even if we, go back and not do the Strathmere streets, there's still gonna be streets on the mainland that we would have to remove from the project.
Has anything been allocated or put in for taking care of Cottonwood Park in the paving projects? Fixing all the
I did
cracks
not have any,
And we're gonna want to.
I'd have to cut additional streets unless the paving comes in, at a reasonable price to do that.
It's completely, it's got gaps in it all over the place. If we don't.
What street?
I'm talking.
The parking lot.
Cottonwood Park, that parking lot, it's atrocious. And we've talked about it for really almost 3 years now, without getting at least top coated and relined to try to save it. We're gonna wind up having to remove every bit of that if we don't do something with it. So, again, it's not a street, but it's a hazard the way it is. So, I don't know what the top seal would be, but it would save us a couple of years probably.
Yeah, top seal I could probably add to the contract with now a lot of additional
And then
costs.
get it relined so the parking is delineated, but, if we have to go another 4 or 5 years, we're gonna have to, that's a lot of asphalt and a lot of new base going down there. So if we can save it, let's try to save it as much as we can.
I'd say we reach back out to the water company and see if they'll agree to pave those streets if we put the base down. I mean, that would help us out.
Well, unfortunately, the timing won't work. Because
Why's that?
they're getting ready to start paving their contractors coming in within the next 2 weeks.
So will they do the top over the other 3 streets that are remaining?
I have to go back to them and confirm that. I mean, I can't speak.
No, I mean, I don't
for
want to
them.
make a vote to take away, I mean, people have been waiting a long time for the streets. We've already put out what streets we're doing, and so I'd like to try and, I mean, we didn't create the problem there. They needed to put the pipes in there. I mean, so, that's a part of doing business. That's what, I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. Take care of, I mean, they've made the streets very difficult to maneuver right now. I don't know what anybody else feels about it. I'm just,
No, I agree with you. I think they should
They
pave it.
reap long-term rewards.
I mean, if we can pave it for 5 years, that gives us some more time to allocate
The
it.
budget for it, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we have a limited resource here, so I'd like to just see them do everything, and then we'll address some of these other needs for the other streets.
See what you can do.
What timeframe, if they're gonna do it now, do we have to, I mean,
They were anticipating either starting the end of this week or beginning of next week.
all right, so we should make some sort of motion to say
Yes.
that if, I'll make a motion that Paul contacts the American Water Company and, if they're going to go ahead and just, put that paver over those 3 streets, that will last at least, it'll give us, several years that, we approve that to move forward.
Second. Good job.
Agreed.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
The other portion of the project, if you remember, the school had asked me to take a look at doing some engineering for them over at the middle school. I finished up that work through the middle of the summer, and then when the paving project became authorized, they asked me to convey to the committee if they could include their project with our project to try to see some cost savings, because they, the last couple they've done by themselves, gotten reasonable prices, but there's a potential that if they are included in our project, they could see some cost savings by just aggregating in size and, trying to get a better price. And so they'd like to request.
So before you do that, I need to ask, can we do
Talk
that?
about it a little bit earlier
Yeah, I
today
mean,
when I received Paul's email.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but I'm not so sure.
Well, Barbara and I will look at it. When I talked to Paul right before the meeting, he explained to me that he anticipates the school would fund it before we'd be committed to the contractor, and the bid specs would recite that.
Correct.
We would want to run it and make sure it's permitted under purchasing regulations, but that would be the proviso, that we're not obligating ourselves to the bidder that we're going to.
I mean,
If we put the bid out with two options, one option for doing all the streets, the second option for doing all the streets with a second line item for doing the paving at the school. That way you've broken the two out, and if the aggregate is more cost-effective for the township, but that would also include option A being either equal to or less than the cost of what option one would be, then you would go ahead with it.
I think what Dan's saying, though, is that they'd have to commit to paying for it before
We have to
actually-
have the financial.
Up front. Yeah, the money up front.
Barbara, how we do it. She's got to certify the funds. It's akin to when we were doing streets and some of the neighbors, the property owners on those streets would say, I want curb and sidewalk, and we weren't really going to do that. And we structured the bid that it was an option that if we got paid up front, the contractor would do it as part of the project at a set price, but clearly would be less than if they called a contractor out to do it themselves.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I mean, we've done some other things like that with supplies and those kind of things, but you just need to follow the process, and Dan and Barbara will work that out, and then we can move forward with it that way. So is it appropriate for us to make a motion that, provided everything turns out that it's appropriate, that we
Subject
can
to
do
the
it?
appropriate
Right.
financial controls and bidding procedures, we don't have any objection. You can include the school in the bid package.
Right. And they
Someone like to
understood,
make that motion?
and they understood that they had to, provide the funding up front to us to allow us to issue a contract for that dollar back.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, any other discussion? Let's call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
So while we're on the water company, when is that painting job supposed to be done?
The scaffolding is up.
Scaffolding is up.
All right.
Sold them out there with brushes today.
Yeah, you can see it
It's a
from
lot of rollers, isn't it?
You can see it from Ocean City, the scaffolding.
Looks like the Capitol building. huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, would someone like to make a motion to pay the bills?
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated into the full minutes of this meeting.
Second, would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
We have a number of reports from the municipal departments, the construction code, clerk's office, animal control, tax collector, municipal court, finance office, EMS department. These reports will all be available upon request tomorrow at the clerk's office. I'll make a motion to accept these reports.
Second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
So at this time, we've reached the public comment portion of the meeting. And if anyone would like to address the Township Committee, now's the time to do it. Please go up to the podium and state your name and address and what you'd like to present to the Township Committee.
How you doing? My name is Brian Keenan. I'm on the resolution tonight. Is that correct?
On the what?
I'm to be spoken with tonight by the committee tonight.
In closed session.
I wanted to request that in a public forum, please. My portion of it, with my council
We
present.
can do that, but Labor Council's not here. Our Labor Council, our legal counsel for labor issues isn't here. It wasn't anticipated to start till 8:30, so we'll go into public when your section comes up.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
might be a problem with that. We may have to have it closed.
That was just me speaking for myself. That was just me.
I know, there may be a problem because they're intertwined with 2 employees. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, it's fine.
There are 2 employees involved. We'll have to get an opinion from Labor Council when they get here, whether it's appropriate. I just thought of that when you sat down. If you weren't speaking for both, we may have an issue
Oh, I'm
with
sorry.
that.
Yeah, I'm speaking just for myself. Thank
I
you.
understand.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to run that by Labor Council when she gets here.
Okay. Thanks.
My name is Jack Griffin. I'm a resident here in Upper Township, and also I own a business with my partner, Victor Dompierre. We own Dompierre LLC on 17 Roosevelt Boulevard. Also have a home next to the Fireplace People, 205 North Shore Road, and a place for my parents up in Beasley's Point, so I'm well established in Upper Township. I'm glad to be here. I'm thankful to the mayor and the committee for all your hard work. And recent part of the Upper Township Business Association discussing some things with Mr. Pearson. We've been looking at the property next to us, the one that his former gas station. I know there's some ideas going around there, but I just wanted to offer my services if there was a way, if you were in fact to acquire that property at some point, and it would become perhaps some type of a park or maybe more of a living museum of an arboretum, maybe that can be something that I can help with. There's grants that can be written. There are people in, Linwood should not be the only place around that has a arboretum, and people that are willing to come around and be a part of it, to volunteer to do the work. We have master gardeners in Cape May County, people that are here that can see to it that it gets done properly. And with that, there's another portion of this. Aside from offering my help, I'm concerned a little bit about I know it was in the paper because of discussing with Mr. Pearson about coming off the ramp of the Parkway and looking at Upper Township and looking in particular the section of the town where we are that looks like the major business portion. Just yesterday I was looking in the paper, just looking at real estate, and I saw that the property next to ours, on the left of ours, is for sale, and it's an established business here in the township. And after looking at that and seeing the number of businesses that are for sale in Upper Township on Roosevelt Boulevard and on the intersection going towards the Wawa and a little bit further than that, I just would like to see if there is a vision that to attract businesses, to make the township, that portion of the township, with some of the suggestions. I received a letter a few years ago saying that perhaps the township was thinking of doing some things with that portion of Roosevelt Boulevard to beautify it, and it was a wonderful suggestion, and I know that that perhaps may come to fruition. But my concern is to have a beautiful part of Marmora to be, the town, head of town, I don't know what it's called, but problem is if there's no businesses there in the buildings, with Ocean First now taking over, whenever they take over Ocean City Home Bank, they also own Cape Bank. That's another building that I'm sure they probably won't keep both of them together, in open. I think Fox Bank has gone out or is going out. Place next door to me, the vacant lot on the right of us. I'd like to see that if there's some kind of a plan that we can, have people want to come, businesses that mean something, we're Upper Township. We're not Ocean City, we're not Cape May, we're Upper Township, and we should have our own town center that looks like who we are, and a little bit of history and that type of thing. So I would hope that you just listen to, what I'm saying. I know you do a wonderful job. I just think that there's a lot more going on that we should be concerned about right now. I don't know what type of incentives you may offer, but part of the plan of beautifying the town center, I think, would be to have businesses that mean something to us. So I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I am available if you'd like to talk to me about anything else about the Arboretum, but thank you for listening.
Well, let's just, while you're up there, there is a town center designation for the area that goes south of Roosevelt Boulevard. We have a plan in place, and we had in the past talked to some developers. When the economy kind of went sour a little bit, it really slowed down. But there is a plan in place to do that. Speaking with respect to that open lot that you're talking about, it's something that we could probably apply for open space, but there's also some other projects that other individuals had talked about. Open space would also help us to do some sort of grant through the county to do the improvements with lighting and stuff on Roosevelt Boulevard. We've also had requests from the Historical Society that, we have a old municipal building that they want to do something, so that's another open space. And to complicate it even more, the Ocean City crew team wants to move their crew team over to our side of the bridge through an open space project. So obviously there's a lot of things that there's a lot of wish list of things, and we certainly would like to consider them. I like your idea of doing something with that lot there, arboretum, something with a gazebo or something. In fact, my wife, who used to teach at Bellhaven in 8th grade, worked on that arboretum in Linwood many, many years as they developed it. And she used to take her students over there. She taught science. I do like that idea, and it might be something that we could look at separately from grants. But the town center is something that we have in place. It's a matter of trying to lure, I don't know if lure is the right word, but entice maybe developers and other potential business entities to come down. I do have concerns, as you do, for some of the vacant properties of whether it's change or whether it's just a ebb and flow of businesses through merging as businesses and those kind of things. That's played a part in some of these things, but we haven't honestly put anything in place from a tax incentive or something like that, mainly because we have very limited commercial properties to begin with that help support some of the other things that go on in the township. So, relatively speaking, the taxes are relatively lower than, some of our surrounding communities. So that plays a factor in it as well, like how much can we actually, afford to do. But we have started to have, and I'd like to think, a partnership with the Upper Township business community. I know, as you said, Mr. Pearson has talked. I've appeared before them. Mr. Barr has. I think pretty much everybody on the Township committee has. And, those things we need to focus on moving forward. I would agree with you.
I appreciate it. I think maybe the grant writing for something like that, a living space, might be different than what the other grants that you're seeking, certainly for the crew house, and things like that. I think it might be different. So therefore, it might be able to go on, at the same time. I'm not sure, but thank you.
I like the idea, though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so we have finished the open session portion of the meeting, at least at this point. As has been requested, it's something that might be considered after, our council comes in. So I guess from protocol.
We need an opinion from council as to how that would be handled. As the township committee knows, we have labor council for matters like this. So I would make an announcement to the public that it may be reopened to the public for one of the personnel matters, but it's pending opinion of council.
So at this time, we can move into executive session to get some work done until we reach that portion of decision. So, Mr. Coggins, would you like to read the statement to make a motion to go into executive session?
I hereby move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Contract negotiation for shared services with Cape May County for fleet maintenance, shared services agreement with Egg Harbor Township for vehicle wash, litigation on affordable housing, and personnel. I also include in my motion the estimated time and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussions will be made public if and when formal action is taken or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to litigation matters, such discussions will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Second, would you call the roll?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
So we're going to go into executive session. If you'd like to stay until that decision's made, then we'll come back out and make an announcement to whoever is staying with the potential of going back into open session. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn from closed session and resume the public portion of the meeting.
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Barb, could you do
You
that?
have to
Oh,
call
I'm
the-
sorry. I'm sorry. Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes. All right, I'd like to make a motion to go into open session.
Well, that was part of the motion. I think that was
He
part
did
of
that.
that.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he made it. He made
Okay.
That's
it.
taken care of. There was a request prior to going into closed session at the public portion of the meeting, when Mr. Keenan asked that his personnel matter be dealt with in open session rather than closed session. He was invited into closed session and raised the issue as to whether or not it would be appropriate, given the fact that the incident deals with more than one person is affected. In fact, our policy actually states, and I believe this is consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, our policy states in the event that more than one person is affected by the discussion and one of the affected persons does not request that discussion be in open session, then the discussion shall be in closed session. When I last discussed with Mr. Adams, he told me he did not want it in open session. Is that correct? Good. All right. I don't know if you had anything further you wanted to say, or we're going to go into closed session because of that.
I also agree.
Excuse me?
I also agree with him as well, since that was the case.
Okay. So I guess we're going to go into closed session and continue from there. With that stated, make a motion. to go
Make a
closed
motion to
session.
go back in closed session.
Yes.
Second.
And just before we vote, for the media and other people that are here from public session, we won't be going back into open session after this.
Yeah.
Is that
to
correct?
close it. We have to close.
We will open them after closed session
Yeah.
to adjourn the meeting,
To
and
adjourn.
we may or may not, because there's other items on the closed session agenda, have action on those items.
I would, okay, that's fine.
But as far as this personnel item, it's highly unlikely there'll be action in open session, but I can't tell you that because we haven't gone through closed session.
Okay.
We have
Can you
a
call the
motion
roll?
and a second.
We have a first and a second.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes. Okay, folks, have a good evening. If you'd like to wait, we'll let you know.